people with audio still trying to come through.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another digital series workshop with street entrepreneurs. Before we begin, I want to tell you a little bit about street entrepreneurs, who we are, what we do, and why we put together this digital series. So Street Entrepreneurs is a nonprofit. We care about supporting entrepreneurs start and grow businesses. We put together this digital workshop series to help entrepreneurs grow and start businesses and continue to thrive even during COVID. And today we are joined by Lauren, who's a publicity expert and is going to be showing you the tricks and the trades of publicity. So without further ado, Lauren, feel free to take it away. And
all right.
Sorry, one last thing. I am recording this for the people who are unable to join. If you want, you can make yourself anonymous by changing your name and by typing your questions. But this will be seen by people who were unable to be here today. So anyways, go ahead and start.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much for Juliana. Well, thank you for having me here, number one. I'm very excited to be with all of you guys to share my knowledge as far as getting publicity and how it can help your business, because it is a very, very valuable tool from a marketing and a reputation standpoint. I'm about to share my screen in a moment, but just as a kind of like a housekeeping rule, if you have questions throughout the presentation, the best thing to do would be to type them in the chat, and then I can like kind of go back through them once we're done. And of course, I know we're going to have a chance to like ask questions and stuff, but I know a lot of times during presentations, you may have a question in a moment, and when somebody says like, okay, you have to, they would prefer you to wait, you might forget it. So for this sense of purposes, I definitely suggest putting any questions that you have in the chat. And when we get to the Q&A part, I will definitely get to those first, and then I'll just answer any questions that you have. So just give me 1 second, and I'm going to share my screen with you guys so we can get this party rolling. So like everybody can see this?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Ooh. All right. So I'm just going to briefly introduce myself. So my name is Lauren Gill. I am the founder and chief power specialist at Power Publicity. We have been around for 7 years. I have been in the industry for over 10 years. A lot of my work has been done in the entertainment and nonprofit spaces. I always say I blame Beyonce for getting into this field, because little did I know, I don't know if anybody remembers this show. Of course, like I said, I work in entertainment, so I'm an entertainment nerd. But there used to be a show on MTV called MTV's Diary, and where they would like follow the artists or celebrities around for like a week or so. And it was kind of like a way of to get like an in-depth behind the scenes look of artists' life. Like this is pre social media, because now you can just follow them on social media. But they used to have a whole show for that. And one time I definitely saw her working with Beyonce, and I was like, oh, okay, that kind of looks like a cool job. I get to work with the artist directly. Of course, I didn't know what the heck she was doing until later on when I got to college, and that's when I was able to put two and two together. So the cool thing is, like, I got a chance to talk to her, like, recently when we had a meetup a couple weeks ago. So very, very nice and full circle moment. So that's just a little bit about me. So as far as the thing that we're going to talk about today, I'm going to break down just a basic definition of publicity and what it entails and what it does not entail. Some things you need to do before you start to pursue a publicity campaign, what you need in order to pitch yourself to the media, and how to basically find some press opportunities. So what in the world is publicity in the first place? Well, the way Webster defined it is the giving out of information about a product, person, or company for advertising or promotional purposes through the media. So pretty much, of course, all the stuff you see in magazines, radio, TV, online, podcasts, that type of stuff, that is a form of publicity. A key thing to keep in mind that publicity is mainly about awareness. It does not have a direct correlation to sales. So what that means is it's basically there's no really hard way to measure to say like, yeah, because we got this piece in the Washington Post or Wall Street Journal or Entrepreneur Magazine that it came with a boost of sales. It's not technically a direct correlation. However, it does really help you to raise your awareness and your visibility, so that can help you to lead to more sales. And one thing that you definitely want to make sure that's happening is whatever you're doing on the publicity side, it definitely coincides with your marketing. So let's just say, for example, you are a beauty brand and you are releasing a new collection of like a new skincare line. Like some of my examples may be a little arbitrary, but just follow me here. Let's say you're reducing a skincare line. So of course you may have your advertisement that you may put in on online or maybe wherever else you want to do. You'll have your email marketing, that sort of thing. But along with that, if you're definitely trying to give people more in-depth information, definitely through a third party because it comes off more credible, you will pursue getting reviews in maybe beauty magazines or getting a spot on TV, like a morning TV show, that type of thing. So that's kind of how those two are supposed to work together, because at the end of the day, if people aren't necessarily aware of your product, it will not lead to sales. So that's kind of how it works hand in hand. Another key thing to remember that it does require patience and persistence. It's really not something where you always send out a pitch to a journalist and then all of a sudden you're getting all of these hits. It can take a little while. It may take, you following up a couple times and really taking time to build relationships. So, but we're kind of going to get all into the nuances of that in this presentation, but definitely keep in mind that this is something that requires patience and persistence. So you are going to have to make a commitment if this is something that you want to do in your business. So why in the world should you try to get it in the first place? As I kind of said before, it definitely helps to increase your visibility. The more time somebody sees your brand, they know you, they get to be able to identify you, and then you can start to build that relationship. You can start to, build that connection and loyalty. Definitely helps to boost your credibility. What I mean by that is, so when somebody sees your advertisement and whatever you may say about your product, whether it's the best at this or it's the fastest or it does this or does that, of course, if they're looking at an advertisement, you're going to say that because that's what you think about your product. But they, as a consumer, they don't know that unless they actually try it. And of course, people these days definitely like to make more informed buying decisions. But if they hear you on the radio talking about it, or they see a magazine article and they get more in-depth information, it comes off more credible because it's not a third party. Because the one thing about publicity that is definitely, it is earned media, meaning you have to prove why your story is relevant, why people need to know about your business, why people need to know about your brand and what you are doing. You really have to make that case, and it has to seem like something that people can use or is useful for the greater good. It's not just about selling your own stuff. And the reason why I said I put more effective than advertising, and this is not to say that you shouldn't do advertising, but when you do like a dollar for dollar comparison, as far as what you get from a awareness standpoint, you can go a lot further with publicity for advertising. And this is more so if you were investing in working with a firm, but even if you're doing it in-house, you'll be able to see that type of information. So let's talk a little thing about some things you need to do before you start a publicity campaign. The first thing is that you need a good story to tell. That's the whole point, is that, the media is there to inform people as also well as to tell stories. So I'm going to go back to my example about the skincare line, the beauty brand. So for somebody like that, if they were just starting out, one of the things that they will want to do is talk about why did they start it in the first place, or what was the inspiration behind it. So let's say, for example, the owner or something, they really was trying to find a solution for women with hyperpigmentation, because there may not be a lot of products for that. And they really struggle with trying to find the right products to help them with that. And before, it was really like a big it was a big insecurity for them, because they would have all these spots on their face, or it might be blotchy or something, like, they wouldn't have an even skin tone, but they were able to find a solution to their problem and help other people and help them be more confident in their skin. That is one way you could kind of spin it to talk about like having a good story to tell. So that's what I mean when we talk about having a story. Next thing is to make sure you have a consistent brand image across all your platforms. So this comes to your visual branding when it comes to mainly like your social media pages, any other communications that you send out, because before somebody, if they never heard of you before they want to cover you, they are going to look at like your social media pages. They're going to look at your website just to see who you're about, what is it that you bring to the table, to see if you are a good fit for their particular platform. So you definitely want to make sure all of that is consistent, is tight, is clear. They can tell what it is that you do. And it's not about you having a whole bunch of followers or you having this big shop or something. It just has to be, just make sure that it's professional, crisp, and clear to what it is that you're serving. The next thing is like you want to make sure you have like your operations and your capacity will be in place to support a boosted business. So let's say you get a really big feature. You get featured in Washington Post. You get on the Wall Street Journal. You get featured on Ellen. Yes, I know this is reaching for the stars, and sometimes we don't always start that way, but you never know. Or it can literally be just a local like you can really be on like the Good Morning DC or something like that. And all of a sudden people see what you're doing and they really want to buy your stuff. One thing you definitely want to make sure is that you can be able to handle that, because that has happened before where somebody, they may not have as big of awareness or visibility. They get that type of thing and they kind of struggle to keep up with the demand. So just make sure you're able to keep up with the demand. And the next thing is good media relationships. Now, this is something that a lot of people, that's why they hire publicity firms, because that's the value that they bring is good media relationships. But that doesn't mean that you as a business owner or somebody like that, you cannot start to build these relationships or kind of get to know the people who will cover the types of stories and issues related to your business and brand. So that's another thing you also need is good media relationships. So I'm going to go into what it takes to actually create a publicity plan. So this is kind of like these questions that I have here is like a high level view. Is like if I was to write up a plan for you or show you how to write a plan, or if you was going to write a plan on yourself, these are the main things you got to focus on. The first thing is, what is the message you want to share? Like, what is the main thing that you are trying to communicate with people? So in my skincare example, they're trying to communicate how this particular product can help you with your hyperpigmentation and how it can make you feel more confident about yourself. So that will cover that particular question. Who are you trying to reach? So this is basically your target audience. So whoever is your target audience as far as your products and services or anybody that's impacted by your company, this is the next thing. This is your audience. So this is who you're trying to reach. The next thing is what kind of media do you consume? Your audience consume. So this means let's say if this person wants to target women of color, because they tend to, in my skincare example, they tend to have issues with hyperpigmentation. What are some of the magazines that they read, or some of the websites they go to on a regular basis? What are some of the TV news shows they may watch? Or what are some of the podcasts that they may listen to? Or what are some of the radio stations or radio shows they may listen to? That's where you think about, okay, here are my media targets. Here are the people I'm going to target with all of my pitches. And then the next thing you want to do is come up with different ways to tell your story. So in our skincare example, of course, we have the basic thing as far as how it helps with hyperpigmentation, but maybe also it's something about how this was such a great solution that this person was able to make $1 million in the first year, or how they may be giving back to their community or doing some type of outreach program, or something like that. So you just think about it from different ways so that you can pretty much maximize your efforts. So in that situation, what you're doing is you can target a skincare or a beauty magazine, and then you can target somebody on the business side. And then, of course, if this person is local, somebody wants to focal local business owners, she can pitch like her local news media. So that's what we mean when we say, think of different ways that you can kind of tell your story. All right, so I'm going to get into building media relationships. This is kind of like what I was talking about, the things you need before you start to get publicity, because of course, the more a journalist or reporter knows you, you build that type of rapport, they'll be more likely to feature you. So these are just some easy, like just really simple, easy ways you can start to do this. The biggest way is to definitely support their work. So read, watch, or listen to their work. So if it's a writer who does a lot of online pieces, whether it's for like a magazine, whatever type of platform, read their stuff. So that way, when you're ready to pitch yourself, you know exactly the type of stuff that they cover. Because one thing that you don't want to do is send any type of pitch or story that's unrelated to what a reporter covers, especially now, because, you know, we have this crisis that's going on. So they're definitely not more sensitive to that type of stuff. So definitely make sure you consume their work. The next thing is to interact with them on social media. Mostly every reporter, journalist has some type of social media presence, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. I would definitely suggest more so Twitter, because that's where a lot of people tend to share their pieces. Instagram as well. And also the great thing about this is a lot of the times when you try to look for their contact information, it's right there in their bio. You'll see their email listed in their profile, or on Instagram's case, you'll see an email. They'll have like an email button where you can click the button and you can send them stuff like that. So definitely follow and interact with them. That's something I do as a publicist. Like a lot of the people that work in the industries where of my clients, I interact with them on a regular basis, and that's how I've been able to develop some good relationships. Another thing too is to like use LinkedIn. So just like they're on some of the, you know, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and that type of thing, a lot of people are also on LinkedIn. So see if you can connect with them on LinkedIn and see just what they're who they're working for, that type of thing. So if you wanted to connect with somebody, say, hey, I'm so and so, I have this type of business, I would like to get to know you, would you be open to connecting? So, and it's also another great way too, because let's say if you're looking for the contact for Channel 7 and you need to know who the producers is, because when it comes to pitching, with TV and radio, the person that you're going to target is the producer. It's not going to be the person that you see behind the camera. It's the producer of that show. And sometimes you may or may not be able to get the direct contact information if you call a newsroom, or you may not have a number to dial, but you can definitely at least look them up on LinkedIn, because a lot of professionals are on LinkedIn. And then also too, when you get their contact information, just send them an introductory email. Just tell them who you are. You could just say like one line about your business and how you would like to get to know them. You know, what are some of the stuff that they're working on right now? Because that's one way you can build relationships with them. So in that email, you're not necessarily pitching your story or your business. You're just like telling people, hey, this is who I am. This is what I do. I'd like to get to know you, that sort of thing. All right, so just some really quick tools to help you get publicity. One of the tools that I use to sometimes find media contacts is called Easy Media List. I believe it's easymedialist.com. If you Google that, they have the list of newspapers, like local newspapers, TV stations. You can customize your list. So let's say like we're in DC, like we're in this area, and you only want the information to the stations around here. You can pick that city and those stations for all of the stuff. Just pay that one-time fee and get that contact information. Now, one thing I would suggest to do is to kind of, if they have a contact information, just call and verify to see if that's the right people for the things that you want, you know, the story that you want to pitch, because a lot of times, a lot of journalists they move around a lot from place to place. Unfortunately, right now, a lot of them are getting laid off due to what's going on right now. So definitely just make sure you verify that they have the correct information, because they tend to move around a lot, so they may not always update everything. The next one is called Help a Reporter Out, or HARO. This is basically a platform that journalists use to get information for stories that they're working on. So you can basically be a source. So let's say that you have a journalist who needs somebody to talk about pretty much tips to keep yourself healthy during this time, and they're looking for some type of doctor. And if they might send out a query saying, I need a doctor that can talk about how to pretty much manage your symptoms at home, can, you know, this is what I'm looking for my particular story or my particular show, whatever. And then you could go on and submit your information and yourself to be a part of that reporter story. The great thing also about this particular platform is that you can sign up, you can customize it to your industry, your interest, your field, and they will deliver different queries to your inbox as many times a day as you can set them up, because they normally send them out morning, afternoon, and evening. If, you know, again, you could set it up to say, I want it only in the morning, I want it in the afternoon, or I want it all throughout the day. It just depends on your preference. And the reason why they do that is because, of course, different people work at different times. They have different deadlines. So something that might be in the morning set of queries may not show up in the evening one just because of those circumstances. All right, so the next thing I want to get into is basically how to pitch. So this is, okay, so this is basically a basic template to if you were actually emailing, because the majority of pitches that are sent out today, whether you're pitching to get on a TV show, if you want to get in a newspaper, if you want to be featured on a magazine, online magazine, or just their online site, because most magazines are primarily online these days. So if you're like trying to get into like Entrepreneur or Forbes or anything like that, doesn't matter the type of platform. This is basically if you were to send out a pitch to a journalist so you can get on. Definitely, I didn't put this here, but definitely make sure you have a kind of like a good subject line that's to the point about what it is that you are trying to, what your pitch is about. The next thing, of course, please use a proper greeting. Make sure that you personalize your stuff that you're sending out, because typically what will happen if I was working with a client is I would develop what I call like a pitch letter that talks about just the overall story, about what it is that the person is doing. And it could be tempting to send that out to everybody on your list, but you definitely want to make sure whoever you are targeting, like your list of targets, like remember we talked about creating your plan, you think about all the media you want to target. Of course you want to make sure you customize it for every media outlet. So, because somebody like at a USA Today is not going to be like somebody that's at Entrepreneur magazine or, you know, that type of thing. So definitely make sure you customize it, make sure you get their name right. I know these things may seem really small, but they do make a difference. And these particular times do you know, be human and ask people how are they doing, and make sure they're doing well. That sort of thing. And then the next thing is you want to tell them what you want. So do you want them to interview you as far as you being a guest on your show? Do you just want them to write a feature story or on your thing, or you just want to feature you in a segment? That sort of thing. You got to tell them what type of, how you want them to cover you. The next thing, you got to basically tell them your story and why are you a good fit for this platform. So I'm gonna go back to the example that we was using as far as the skincare line. So let's say this person was pitching so this is their products are mainly targeted towards women of color. So let's say that they was pitching the beauty editor at Essence Magazine. They can talk about how their products has able to help correct the skin of so many women, and definitely talk about how they've been able to build their business as a small business owner, and they're part of the trend of all of these Black women who are starting their own businesses and that type of stuff. And of course, you know, Essence is a magazine that focuses primarily on Black women. So that is one way that could be a fit for that. The next thing, once you kind of tell them your story, why it could be a good fit and what it is you want to do, you want to include relevant information. So this is where you will send links to your website. If you have what we call like a press release, I'm not sure if everybody heard of press releases before. So a press release is basically basically a document where you are making a news announcement about something that you're doing, whether you're releasing a new product or something major happening in your business. That's what you're using it for. You would paste that into the body of your email, because one thing is, if you're sending them any information, whether it be like any type of brochures or anything like that, you don't want to put attachments, because that can clog up people's inboxes and it might shift your email to spam, particularly if this is your first time reaching out to them. But make sure you include any relevant information as to so they can get more information and do some more research, so they can reach out to you. Definitely thank them and include your contact info, how they can reach you. So that's like the basic setup of how to write a pitch email. So, hitting the wrong button. So after you do that, so the first time you send out something, they're not going to always hit you back right away. Depending on what their needs are, if they know you, or if it's, if it's a good fit, they may not, or they may not see you. Like, a lot of their inboxes are full to the brim. And so it may take a couple times for you to follow up. Like, I don't know if you've ever heard of this phrase. This is used in sales a lot. The fortune is in the follow-up. It's the same thing when it comes to publicity. The fortune is in the follow-up, because, like, as I said, sometimes they may have missed it, or it got stuck in their inbox or something, or they have so much going on, they may not have just gotten a chance to review it. So definitely you want to make sure you follow up on the stuff you sent. Now, give people a few days to actually review your stuff. Don't send your email out or your pitch email out at Monday at 4:30 p.m. and then at 5:15 you say, I'm sending an email to follow up on the email, and then Monday morning you said, I'm sending a follow-up email to a follow-up email for my original pitch. Like, you definitely want to give people a chance to actually review your stuff. So give it a few days. If it's something that's time sensitive, right now, because we are so slowed down, it's not necessarily a thing where, depending on what you have going on in your campaign, where you may have a whole bunch of time sensitive stuff, but definitely just try to give folks a chance to review it before you follow up. Now, when you do follow up, the thing that you would ideally want to do is try to give more additional information. So in the skincare line example I'll give, so if I send out a basic pitch that says, here's this person, they started this business, here are the benefits, here's how they've been able to make, here are all the benefits for this product, and I don't get a response from the particular editor, I could then go in to say, like, hey, well, here, I'm following up with you about my pitch or whatever. If I have some like video testimonials, here's some video testimonials of these people who use my product, and continue to also tell them why it will be a good fit for their particular publication. Because one thing you don't kind of want to do is just pretty much send out the same exact thing that you sent out a few days ago. There are ways that you can kind of tell. There are tools that you can kind of use to kind of see if somebody opens your email. That's something I've used as a publicist. It's a tool provided via HubSpot. The name of it is escaping me, but basically what it'll do, it'll track your email to see, and what'll happen if you click the track the email, it'll basically tell you if the person opened your email or not. Because if you know that, you can kind of adjust your strategy to say, okay, they actually looked at it. So let me, like, when I follow up with them, let me say this and give them additional information about it, versus me kind of like pretty much sending the same thing over again, because you already know they looked at it. Another key thing is after a few times, move on. Publicity is getting publicity is more like a marathon. It's not a sprint. And sometimes, for whatever reason, it may not be a good fit. It may not be a good time, but you definitely don't want to keep sending the same thing over and over again, because you'll come off as a pest and you end off on the blacklist, and you don't want to do that. So, after you send your initial email, follow up about at least a couple times. And then if you don't hear from anything, just move on. It's not the end of the world. It's not to say that you won't be able to pitch that person again. Sometimes it may take you sending them multiple stories. And then also, like I said, when we talked about building relationships, where if it's a thing where, like, the more you interact with them, whether it be via social media or you get to talk to them via their own email, like after you send an introductory email, where you start to build a relationship more, you'll be more likely to get featured the next time. So just keep that in mind. So that's all I have for today. So I will open it up for questions. I'm gonna stop the screen share so I can look at this chat. I don't see any questions in the chat, but did anybody have any questions for me? I know I covered a lot in a short amount of time, and you're probably like, so, but if there's anything you want me to go back to, any issue, anything you want to cover, if there's anything from a publicity standpoint, personally about your business, if you were wondering, I'm open to any type of questions. So does anybody have any questions?
You guys can also unmute yourselves and ask direct questions.
Okay, I see one question in the chat. It says, what is the best way to look for journalists? Okay, so what is sort of the first thing you want to do is definitely concentrate on your industry. That's where you want to start. So if you are in the food and service industry, look for those people who talk, and not just for those, not like just like a food magazine, but like somebody who writes about food and beverage. It could be like the food and beverage writer at the Washington Post, that sort of thing. I would say definitely try to Google it via social media. And the reason why I say use social media is because a lot of them do have profiles with that. And usually a lot of the times they have their contact info in their bio. I don't know if this particularly works, because it used to be this particular platform called Muckrack. I have to look it up to make sure I'm saying it correctly, but it's kind of like a directory of journalists. I cannot recall if you have to pay for it or not, but I would definitely say start with Google and start with social media. So think about your industry. Think about the media people that would be interested, and like just look through there. So like, even if, like, say if you want to use Twitter and you want to, let's say you want to get into the Washington Post, you could put like Washington Post, and if you hit the people line, it'll say all of the people who work there, or you could put Washington Post food critic or something like that. So definitely concentrate on your industry first, and then kind of think of outside of that. And another tool I had mentioned in the beginning was called Easy Media List. So if you go to Easy, I'm gonna type it here in the chat. If you go to easymedialist.com, you can go on there and you can choose via interest or topic. So like, let's say like entertainment, women's, parenting, home and garden, that type of stuff. You can search that way, or you can also search by geographical location. And you could just pick all of the places that you think will be relevant to you, and basically create your own media list, so you can buy the whole thing. It's just up to you. And then you could just pretty much download that media list, and that you'll have some contacts right there. Okay, so I have, what are some press release no-nos? Definitely you want to keep it to the point. The recommendation is to try to keep it to maybe no more than 2 pages. If it's more than if it's more of expanded release, we have more information. one of the things I could do is I could definitely send out some more resources, and then also my contact information. If you really want to just talk to me about personally how to kind of help you to get publicity, I'll be more than happy to do that. But with a press release, you want to make sure the most important information that you write in that very first paragraph is included, which is what we call the who, what, when, where, and why. So to just knock out all the real hard, heavy, basic information in the press release. When it comes to sending it out. So when we talked about sending your pitch email, you definitely want to paste it in the body of the email. Do not send an attachment, because it will either go to spam, or the person can delete you because they may think they don't know if you sent a virus or not. So definitely make sure that you are, if you're going to send out a press release, copy and paste it. Make sure that you try to keep it as brief as you can, and make sure the most important information is in that very first paragraph, and then you kind of just give them more details throughout the release. Like I said, I can definitely share a sample one so you can kind of get the information of what to do. And I will also say this, everything doesn't need a press release. If it's something major that can have an impact on a lot of people, you can write a press release. Otherwise, you're better off doing what I call like a pitch letter. So that's kind of like when I went through the whole example, like how to write a pitch email to talk about what you want to do. You can do that. Any other questions? Cries of anguish?
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Before I let you guys go, I want to just tell you a little bit more about some other programming we're doing. So until mid-June, we're going to be doing digital workshops weekly to help entrepreneurs continue to grow and thrive even during quarantine. And after June, we're going to be doing something called founder retreats that are intended as an intensive kind of weekend for people who want to take a step back from their business and figure out what is their next step. These intensive retreats are also going to give you a chance to connect with mentors and coaches. And on the final day, participants are going to select the most promising venture. And then that venture is going to go on to Street Pitch. So Street Pitch is like American Idol meets Shark Tank, but the people watching are the investors. So if you're interested in that, I invite you to apply. Thank you, Lauren, so much for being here and for sharing your knowledge with us. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you to everyone who donated to this workshop. Just so you know, all the money that we collect from the workshops are going to go to helping entrepreneurs who don't qualify for federal and local relief aid due to the COVID pandemic, either because they're undocumented or because they're unable to prove financial loss. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me directly at juliana@streetentrepreneurs.org. And finally, if you're here as a guest and you didn't sign up on Eventbrite and you want to leave me your email so I can invite you to more workshops, you can do that in the chat. Thank you, everyone. And thank you so much, Lauren, for being here.
Thank you.
Is there anything you want to pitch before we go?
Yeah, so as I said, anybody who wants to contact me about helping them to personally get publicity for your brand, I'll be more than happy to talk to you. I'm about to launch a new service, particularly for people like you guys who are entrepreneurs who want to get publicity. I pretty much walk you through the whole process, help you set up, do all of the stuff that we talked about today, help you set up your plan, help you to find media outlets, help you develop your pitches, and kind of pretty much just hold your hand while you go through the process to kind of do that type of things. I will definitely love to talk to you about how we can do that and work together. So I will put my information here in the chat with my email address. So if anybody wants to reach out to me, and I'm sure Juliana, she will also share it as well, about helping them to put together a publicity plan, I will be more than happy to talk to you.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.